You can now get Oreo popcorn at the movie theater.
What the fuck is Oreo popcorn?
It's literally what it sounds like. It's popcorn and Oreos.
You're gonna have to help.
No, like you're saying they're encased in. It's like the
Just
caramel
crumbled all within the popcorn. We got handed the bag. I shit you not, it was 5 pounds.
Oh my god.
The bag was so heavy.
Oh my god.
It
so they
was
just crumble up a bunch of Oreos and dump it into a bucket of popcorn?
You truly will need to go to the bathroom in the third act. Truly.
We need 2 apps for that. I don't know if that phone has enough memory for that type of app. So I understand now why you like Joker 2 so much, Jake. It's all coming together.
Really.
It's just your moment, just eating the Oreo popcorn.
I was projecting again.
Yeah, you could have watched a black screen for 7 hours.
Did you see Joker 2, Jake?
It was incredible.
Can we clarify that you did watch it?
I saw the bottom of the popcorn bag at some point, so that was pretty exciting.
Then he hallucinated a movie.
Yeah. And that's not a joke. Anyhow, I did enjoy it.
Joker 2 is not real. It's a thought experiment to keep Jake in prison and test new Oreo products.
Honestly, sign me up. I'm in. I'm in.
That's fucking hilarious.
Wow.
But I do recommend a watch if you want to pay money out of your wallet and you want to see a musical because you're expecting a musical. Now go see it.
And eat some Oreos popcorn together same time.
Absolutely.
Yum, yum, yum. Welcome to Hobbit Hoopla. Hoopla! The unofficial podcast of Middle Earth, which is not doing too hot right now. Yikes.
In great peril.
We are here to discuss The Rings of Power Season 2, Episodes 7 and 8. We're going to double them up this week. Mash them both together, the penultimate episode and the ultimate episode. In this, Ultimate Hoopla.
Ultimate Hoopla.
Ultimate.
Beautiful. I'm glad we planned that. Joining me for this ultimate episode of the Hoopla podcast, of course, we have the lore master, the recently claiming the title of the greatest of elven smiths.
Really?
Living, that is. Andy Smith.
True. Andy Smith here. That's
Andy
true.
Smith.
Andy Smith, a connoisseur of many nerdy things. Star Wars, Marvel, DC, Joker 2, and Lord of the Rings. What an ending to Season 2. I'm excited to get into each of the big moments. But there's a lot of small moments that were just icing on the cake for this season. Loved it. We'll go through each one.
Well, we'll go through a lot of them. We don't have 17 hours to go through.
Each one.
We don't have the time.
Boy, would we love to.
Stay tuned for the next 45 years as we discuss these episodes. Of course, we have the fantasy expert joining us, Chris Pio.
Chris Pio here. We're doing a double episode. We've got lots to talk about. I just want to take a moment to say hearts out to the victims of Hurricane Helene. We ourselves had some technical difficulties getting an episode out to you last week, so apologies for that. Stay safe if you can. Send some aid their way. We're certainly going to do the same. And now we've got 2 episodes to talk about. So stay tuned again for 45 years of content coming right at you from the Hoopla.
The longest
Everybody
Spotify podcast of all time.
That's okay,
Coming
because
at
we
you
have an
right
app
now.
that's going to tell you exactly when you can pause this episode to use the restroom whenever you need to. So you're good to go.
Yeah, that's great. How convenient.
And, of course, the 4th and final and arguably most important member of the Hoopla crew.
Arguably.
Oh, God. Where is this going?
I don't know, that got me, Chris. That was good. The only guy suited for the job of taking down Hardbone the troll.
Hardbone was
Call
not
back.
the ogre's name.
Hardbone,
man.
troll, callback.
It's Jake Laxer.
Man. Gotta love Hardbone. Great mountain troll. Perhaps the most well-known of them all. Frickin' Damrod. What are you gonna do with the guy? Damrod. What are you gonna do? I mean, damn.
Eulogy music. Damrod, hit it.
You know,
Anyhow.
if his name was actually not Damrod and instead Hardbone, he probably would have made it through the episode.
Hell
He
yeah,
would
he
have
would've.
finished off
Unfortunate for
Arondir
him.
and made it
He
all the
would've
way
finished
through.
off a lot.
Exactly. Oh, Hardbone's coming. Hardbone's coming.
Run.
Can you imagine? A Region would have been done in a
Yeah,
day.
just over.
Today.
Why are you going to do a siege for 3 weeks when you have Hardbone coming through the stream?
Yeah, he was like, "Oh, send him out. Just send him out first."
Hardbone is ready to plow. He's fully geared up.
Oh my god.
Moving on. Jake Laxer here, lover of all things TV and movies. What an exciting time to be watching cinema. Oh man, we got the Penguin. We got Agatha All Along.
None of these are movies.
It's exciting cinema.
What an exciting time! Peter Jackson's trilogy just came out 20 years ago, and we have been
got
floating on
Joker.
cloud nine.
We have the Godfather, we have the Rocky series, and we have the Penguin.
The 21st century is popping off.
Wow.
It is
Tim
unfucking
Burton's
believable.
Batman is incredible.
Hell yeah. This sick new indie film called Citizen Kane just dropped. You guys gotta check it out.
You guys got to check out 12 Angry Men. I have never seen a movie like this.
And they are pissed.
They are so angry. Anyway, we're not here to talk about cinema. We're here to
We are
talk
not.
about awesome TV shows like The Lord of the Rings, The Rings of Power, specifically season 2, even more specifically, episode 7, Doomed to Die, and episode 8, Shadow and Flame. Holy moly.
Yeah.
We have a lot to discuss, so I think we should just dive right into the absolutely epic grand scale battle that was the Siege of Eregion. And let's just talk about some of the cinematics, as Jake loves, and
I certainly do. My
the
God.
cinematography and the choreography of these fight scenes. Were there some moments that stood out to you guys as being just like, holy shit, this is an incredible show? Because I kind of felt like that the entire time.
It was just constant. Oh, it was just constantly wonderful.
Very much in the vein of they were going for this Battle of Pelennor Fields kind of vibe of the siege ongoing, this giant city. And I love that, yeah, it was continuous, especially in the episode 7, where that was the entirety of the episode.
Right.
And you're seeing the troops or the orcs come in, their siege kind of weapons, their trebuchets throwing these giant hurling balls of fire. And then you have this small force on the other side, just slowly dwindling over the 2 episodes. But even with, I thought it was great on both sides, just seeing the scale, the camera getting to pull back and see the battlefield. Mm-hmm. It was something we've been missing in this series. A lot of fun.
Yeah, we talked about it in our episode maybe 5 or 6 review about how Game of Thrones, the House of the Dragon, that season 2 finale lacked a giant battle when really we were not necessarily promised, hard to say promised, but maybe expected. Now, we know there's going to be a battle and there will be battles to come even in Rings of Power, but they delivered in Rings of Power. These last 2 episodes, it was solely focused on the battle, and wow, did it really impress. I mean, I think they needed a keystone a setup for the end of the season, and I think they really gave us 2. The battle, of course, but then the internal battle that we have, Celebrimbor and Anatar, just the 2 parallels between that. And of course, I'm not making any giant claims here when I say that, it was very cool to have the illusion stuff going on for Celebrimbor, whereas everything outside was obviously, thrown to ruin. But then to have them break out of that in the end of the 7th and towards the 8th episode, masterfully done, just perfectly paced over these 2 episodes. And I think, it's not Helm's Deep or anything, because that was, master cinematography, as Jake likes to talk about cinema. That's 35 minutes of some of the best battle sequencing we've ever seen in film. But this was pretty damn close, and it felt very Tolkien, and I'll say it felt very Peter Jackson-y as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if you think back to major TV shows that try and show the epic scale of these massive, fights and battles, normally it spans across one episode. The fact that they were ambitious enough to bring this through 7 and 8, to have, the dwarves come in and act as, the saving face for all of Eregion.
Dwarves.
That was beautiful.
Gil-galad.
Gil-galad, yeah.
So good.
Shout out to Gil-galad. He was awesome.
Yeah.
He was incredible.
Agreed.
Great acting across the board.
Walker.
Seeing Arondir meet up with the rest of the high elves was absolutely incredible, and working in tandem.
Saving Galadriel.
Galadriel and Celebrimbor's sacrifice. I mean, it was just perfect. It was the absolute perfect ending for this show, and
season.
Quite honestly,
not the ending for the whole show.
Well,
True,
please.
the season.
Yeah,
the season.
yeah. For the
I'm just
season.
saying,
but
season 3 hasn't been renewed yet, so we need to hold out
But
hope.
How could they not? How could they not?
They needed to perform
Talk
this.
about that, Dan.
Yeah, they needed to draft up this battle scene to the ultimate precipice that it could be. Hollywood is, always pushing the limits, and quite honestly, Game of Thrones is always holding the title for these type of scenes. I think this pushes the limit. I think this takes the cake.
I like the sound of that, and I don't disagree with it.
Interesting.
It was incredible, and I think we have to give a shout out to Charlotte Brandstrom, the director. She's been like the main director, the showrunner, maybe not showrunner, but she directed many episodes of this show, and she directed these last 2 episodes, and just did an absolute masterful job all around. I think one of my favorite shots from, I think it was episode 8, was a long tracking one shot that started out following the elf archer on top of the building, shooting down some orcs, and he jumps down to the lower levels, fighting some orcs hand to hand, and then the one shot transitions over and follows Galadriel, who's saving the innocent elves running to escape as she continues to fight the elves. And it was probably like a 30-45 second one shot. Was just awesome. So cool to get dynamic
I counted longer
action
than a minute.
in that.
And the way it maneuvers behind them as well, going down a level, turns the camera, goes around the full grouping. You see the orcs coming in from another side, and that's when Galadriel kills one orc and like kind of guides them along. That's a lot of fun. Like they did this show, and specifically those directed by Charlotte Brandstrom, there's a lot of different types of visuals. And we've talked about when they're changing the camera angles, when you have these large, expansive scenes of the siege, but then you have Celebrimbor and Anantar face to face together. There's a lot of variation, but it all fits really well. It doesn't seem out of place. So I love that the one shot, just kind of giving a little bit more interest to the battle, which is a long one, so you have to keep the audience's interest. It's wonderful.
Yeah, I am a sucker for a one-shot take. My favorite, and I don't think it'll ever be topped, was in True Detective season 1. I still think that's possibly the best one take that's ever been put to wax. But this one was a close second, I think. And put to film, put to wax.
Put the wax. What type of movies you watching?
You never heard that? It's
not for movies.
Audio. But I more than just the one take, I think it's just fun to watch a show where they're they're actually trying things. We saw the Adar and Galadriel in episode 8. We saw the shifted camera angles. I know Jake's ready to talk about that when we get there.
Ready.
And then CGI, I think, was used appropriately here. We saw the Balrog in episode 8, which we'll get to the dwarves. How cool was that? But I don't think it looked cheesy. I think it looked very cool. We saw some wire work with some of the fighting sequences. A lot of the combat was very well orchestrated. Arondir had some of the sickest moves, as he always does. It's a violent and tumultuous thing to watch. Some people may not be super into that. They might be into more of the story stuff. But I think the battle highlighted, especially since they took a siege of an elven city that's supposed to last hundreds and hundreds of years and condensed it down into this little battle, and they still made it feel important and impactful. That is a tall task, and I think they absolutely crushed it, knocked it out of the park.
Well, to that point, Chris, the sieges often in, say, Game of Thrones or other media, they're shown
real life.
Or real life. Well, I was going to say not in real life, like in cinema or in TV shows, they're often a one-day event, 48 hours. But here, they kind of, through the manipulation of Celebrimbor, they talk about it being a weeks-long siege, which is often the case. It's usually not even just 3 weeks, it could be months. And they make it feel like it's been a just devastatingly long siege for these elves. And I just love, over those 2 episodes, they have different sequences of what's happening in the battle. You have the start of the battle, which is just the trebuchets throwing boulders. And there's some, archers on the side. Then they have the taking down of the mountain to stop the river. And then you have the ground battle, which is when the 7th episode ends, alongside the troll. Right. And then you have them invading inside of Eregion. And it's just, it keeps building. But even though the siege keeps building and it's more devastating to the people on the ground, what was the most devastating was happening in the tower to Celebrimbor, and Anatar is just looming over everything. Once again, they do so well with Anatar in this season. It's shocking to me how effective it is.
Perfect.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. The standout performances of the entire season was Charlie Vickers as Anatar and I forgot his name. Charles Edwards. That's the one, as Celebrimbor. Those two together, every single second that they were on screen was incredible. Especially these last 2 episodes, as we just get to see the madness and the psychological torture that Celebrimbor is going through for these weeks and weeks, and Anatar and Sauron becoming a little bit more evil and a little bit more evil every second. And he gets anxious as the battle's not going his way, and then he gets a little more evil, and then the death scene for Celebrimbor when Sauron just shoots him with arrows for fun from point blank range.
Yes.
And then it's just
just torturing him
with it.
And takes the pike up onto the stone.
Yeah.
With one hand, dude.
Acting performance.
Like Sauron's strength.
Just holding him there. And Celebrimbor with at least two just impeccable monologues. The one he has with Galadriel telling him that it's the light that fends off the darkness was incredible. And then his dying words to Sauron were,
Is that Siren coming to get Celebrimbor?
The ambulance is coming.
Coming to get Sauron.
Hold on, Celebrimbor.
That was magical. Jamie, you told me last week that you were watching a lot of the inside the episodes, and I have been ignoring those because I don't want to catch anything that might clue me in. But for this last episode, I did watch that, and they sat down. Apparently, Charles and Charlie, they shot those scenes in order.
Yeah.
Which is very rare for shows to do. And I think you had to do it for that particular scene setup because they just the grueling trials and tribulations that Anatar puts Celebrimbor through. I think the maturing of their relationship, both as actors and as characters in the scenes, it made so much sense to shoot those in order. And then culminating in, like you said, like perfect little monologues. Lord of the Rings.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Yeah.
His performance was so good.
was
I'm going to give
amazing.
it 1 thumb up.
Nice.
Close it
That
up.
was good.
That's
That
it.
was good. That was good.
But to that point, Jamie, last season, actually, Celebrimbor was one of my least favorite characters, I think, just based on, and there was almost, they were trying to show this very pompous kind of leader of a region, the Elven Smiths, blah, blah, someone
Yeah, he's
that
supposed to be.
He's supposed to be that. But with this season, they really, it heightens early on where he is that pompous leader that really just wants to best his ancestors and be the greatest of all, better than create something better than the Silmarils or whatever. And towards, once you start to see him push back against Anatar, and he does have this like fire, within him, you really see in these last 2 episodes, losing that finger was an incredible scene. There's so many like moments that are incredible between the two of them, but he's the greatest of Elven Smiths, and he got rid of his own thumb, right? To save everyone from Sauron. It's really incredible.
Yeah, and I like how they highlight that even after his passing. Elrond sees all the scrolls and the texts
Yes.
lit ablaze.
Great call.
And, these are they hold more value than any riches you could find across, whatever. But, man, Celebrimbor's line where he said you're more or less a slave to the rings.
Yes.
I thought that was so powerful because I think, at that moment, that's when he begins to torture him and then stab him through the chest. Celebrimbor wins in that moment. I don't care how you sort of perceive it, anything. Like Celebrimbor playing mind games has superseded Sauron in that moment. And the only way for Sauron to account for that is just immediate death.
They kill him. Yeah.
Yeah. So I loved that. Adar, you said we'd get to that.
Hold on, because real quick before we get to Adar, we do have to talk about the 2 moments that made me, as I'm watching
Cry
in my quiet, dark apartment, just fully intense. I'm watching, and there are these 2 moments that made me sit up off the couch, do a full Home Alone face reaction.
Yes.
The first one, Murdania.
Yes.
Yeah, that was sick.
That-
Incredible.
Oh my God. Throwing Murdania off the roof. That was, I did not see that coming at all.
Me neither.
R.I.P. Murdania. She was incredible
Yeah,
this
I
season.
thought she was going to end up being like a partner to Sauron in the end somehow. Manipulation aside, maybe she found him a new leader. Yeah.
Maybe. Or just a replacement Galadriel. Which brings me to the second moment that absolutely shocked me was the Galadriel fight when Sauron falls off the cliff and stands back up as Halbrand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That moment was shocking and incredible. And that whole fight scene was awesome as well, which can bring us to our conversation with Adar as...
My Home Alone face was when Adar straight up got killed
Yes.
by
Mine too.
Sauron. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that was when he was the mutiny trope, and then just everyone just stabbing him. That was crazy. Crazy, and it was so well staged. Just because you think that his second in command is injured and is looking for some degree of advice, and then just boom, straight
perfect.
And
straight death.
it was a great.
And
Right.
it's a complete parallel to Sauron's opening in this
his
scene.
death.
There you go.
Exposition in the scene.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Jake. It's the fact that you end the season with the same scene that started the season, and finally Sauron has bested you. He's bested you in a different way, but you were manipulated for episode after episode to get to this point. And how could you have believed that you weren't being manipulated? And Galadriel tried to tell you.
Right.
So that was the interesting part, where everyone is playing a role in what we think is Sauron's plan, but maybe Sauron at the same time, he says, I'm just he's almost adjusting to it. Or maybe he's just able to slightly manipulate pieces around to get to his end. And
he said, I forget exactly where, but at one point he says, even the path is winding at times. And this is his whole plot is, as I said in the past couple of episodes, not that I'm some genius or anything, but he needs people to do it to themselves. He's a master deceiver. He's not necessarily the master orchestrator. He's not making all these things happen, but he can see how he can kind of poke and prod to get into people's minds,
what they want,
influence them, and from their reactions, from their actions, he can then formulate the plan the rest of the way. And it's just I can't wait to rewatch, because now we're going to be able to see him just plot from the beginning even more.
Well, it's almost like, Chris, he sees people's incentives, and who he didn't manipulate was Prince Durin. Because he was, dwarf, think of all the jewels that you would have as a part of the ring. He sees people's incentives and he pushes towards those, like Galadriel's or Addar's or Celebrimbors, especially, and Merdandia, rest in peace. But it's so effective. And you're right, going all the way back to Halbrand, how much of this was planned for the first time he was in a Region? Like, how much was foreshadowed?
Who knows?
In episode 7, 8 of season 1. We'll need to take a look.
Go back and rewatch it, because incredible. And now that Addar is gone, we've talked kind of hoping that he would stick around for more than just the 2 seasons, hoping that maybe we would get a 3rd season with him. But I think his storyline was very well done.
It was good.
I think they wrapped it up in a nice way. Another almost as shocking moment as the other 2 was when he turned around with his elven face all healed up. My God.
I want to know what his true name was.
I had to know his true name.
At that moment, Jamie, I think I told you this too. And not that we're going to spoil anything for the audience, but at that moment when he was elven, I thought, is this Celeborn? And I'll leave that with those who.
No, it's not.
Well, it's not. He died almost immediately after that. But my hand was in my face. Just please don't be Celeborn. Please don't be Celeborn.
It wasn't.
And it
wasn't.
I think
they've done such a good job bringing him and not humanizing him, but elfatizing him. And through him, the orcs, and giving them a sense of humanity throughout this whole story, as opposed to just being these perpetrators of darkness, to have a way to view them through his eyes as people who are just looking for safety and for a home, and his willingness to ally with Galadriel at the very end. I think they would have been a great team.
Yeah, and I was really looking forward to the opportunity of seeing Addar alongside Galadriel, but bad omen when we don't get Addar Galadriel camera angles. Jamie, you were bringing it up earlier.
Gotta be tilty. Gotta be tilty.
It was. The conversation before it started that way, and that's what made me think, oh man, something's going down. This is juicy. But then it calmed, and he just willingly gave the ring. What does that say about him, by the way? I mean, the strength, the resistance to the power of the ring. Not that Galadriel is super affected, but she's also a full elf. So I don't know. I mean, is he the strongest among everyone in Middle Earth? I mean,
you're
strongest
forgetting about Hardbone.
Perhaps? Well, Hardbone, of course. Hardbone the troll.
Pretty strong.
But I think it just speaks to his character. I know they made this character up for the show, and he's done after 2 seasons, but I don't think it'll be easy to forget about him as we go.
He's going to have a lasting impact, because he also, the irony of these orcs are he said, we're going to keep moving forward, and his best general, right, says, no, but we're cannon fodder. Don't keep us moving forward. And he pushes beyond that. So while he's the one thinking about the children, the irony is that orc was then manipulated by Anatar.
Yeah.
That
and
he
killed.
was, and then killed subsequently after he kills the one that had their, you know, their future kind of, you know, their safety, his family, right? That orc is the one that had the family, the wife, the daughter. And now that orc is not going to see those two anymore because he allied himself with Sauron, manipulated once again.
So good.
R.I.P.
So good. But yeah, Chris, I loved the point you brought up with Adar, you know, and his strength to give up the ring. It's that I love that moment. I thought it was fantastic. I thought they did a great job with the
Great
character.
send-off.
So there were two things earlier in the season. Number one, we had talked about, is Adar going to continue on? And we had both agreed we were hoping that would extend out. Nope.
Wow.
We were also hoping that the Balrog was going to be shown next season. However,
Our hopes have
I
been
mean,
dashed.
my God,
It was pretty sick.
My God,
Are we diving into the mines here with a nice transition
yeah.
from Jake?
It was a beautiful
we-
transition.
we might have to delve.
We're delving deep,
Delve
baby.
deep.
You can't stop
To the
us. Nothing
Balrog.
can stop us from delving into these mines. Yet again, incredible acting from Durin and Durin.
Yeah.
Every single time any of the three dwarves are on screen, it's just perfection.
Oh yeah.
The greatest acting greatest dwarven acting that's ever occurred for sure. And some of the best
I was about to say,
acting
wow,
I
you're
don't
really,
know.
you're really
Have
on
you
it.
seen The Hobbit?
I have. Man, when King Durin
Thorin.
turns around, takes off the ring, looks at Prince Durin, and says, I was never letting you win. You were getting stronger yourself. King Durin.
So badass.
Yeah.
And then
That's a
turns
great
around.
moment.
Oh my God.
So
And that shot,
good.
the slow-mo shot of King Durin jumping at the Balrog, axe held up, and then cling.
Against the whip,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and then the explosion.
So good.
So dope.
You felt
I-
it
so
too.
dope.
You felt
Yeah.
it.
The last act of King Durin III was to shelter his people. He took the ring off and decided one more time to protect his people, even if he didn't know what it would do against this beastly Valar type entity. I mean, just what a cool cold open too.
Yeah.
I mean, we didn't even get the theme music until about 10 minutes into the episode because this was just so
Right.
cool. Yeah, series
After
wrap
a
on Peter Mullen. Very cool.
R.I.P.
We got a lot of series wraps this episode, but
We did.
to continue the discussion with the dwarves, I mean, I think they did a great job with the Balrog because as we were saying, they introduced it too early. We needed to go a little bit longer. So I think they did a good job of, we get to see the Balrog, but it gets handled temporarily.
Right.
And it's still going to come back probably, but it's not like an immediate threat. It's
almost
still
like-
looming.
It's almost like, Jamie, they and they talk about this in the after show, that this was one of the first visuals that they had drawn up is King Durin with the axe fighting the Balrog.
wow.
And
Durin's
if they,
Bane.
at the end of season 2, this was going to be one of the highlight moments. So rather than just kind of hinting and, you know, not coming out and saying the Balrog is showing up, they made the decision, right, in season 1 that the Balrog's here. You audience, you know that the Balrog's here. We're not going to do this whole like GANDALF or like, oh, is it not, or is it Gandalf? They're just going to tell you. They're
We're
just
saving
going
that to the end. We're saving it to the end.
but they're going to tell you, the audience, that this is the being that fought Gandalf in Fellowship of the Ring. And I was, as we all kind of were, do you really have to do this right now? But at the same time, this was so effective. Like they executed it perfectly. And because Peter Mullen is such a great actor, it just fit what you think of the most kingly dwarf to do the most dwarven heroic thing of all time. And there we go. Season wrap. There you go. That's all I needed. When that cold opening started, I was like, wow, this is a success. What a success of an episode.
Yeah. I loved the shot of seeing the ring like sitting on the barrel or sitting on the stone or whatever it was off to the side. And then you just see him just running off the edge. Just, so good. So cinematic. Oh,
you love cinema so much.
And then we had a full episode after that. Like, it was amazing.
It was just a 15 long episode.
Honestly, they just could have just shown that and then episode 9. I would have been all for it. If that's all we had for this week, great.
A single episode. A little amuse-bouche to get you ready for the rest of the episode.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I have one topic of discussion on that particular scene before we move on to the rest of the dwarves. Why? And I know metaphorically and as a characterization, he took the ring off to prove to his son that he could. But if he was just going to jump in there anyways, why didn't he keep this very powerful ring on? And then if he was going to sacrifice himself and he knew the ring was bad, why didn't he take the ring into the bowels of Mount Doom, the bowels of Khazad-dûm anyway? Does he want the ring to be
symbolism
used for greater purposes? Is it just symbolism?
That, but
so here's my interpretation of that decision to take the ring off.
Before you answer, I'll add one more element because we know the ring is powerful. Like he literally has extra force.
Yeah, he could smash that Balrog to the depths of hell.
Thinking. Okay, go. I'll stop.
This is a good point. You bring up a very good point there, Chris.
I think that.
No, thank you.
So my interpretation of it was just that he was snapped out of his
ring
mental
sickness
prism. His ring sickness by seeing the Balrog and seeing the inevitable demise of all of his people and saying, "Oh shit, I caused this because of this ring. My son has been right all along. I should have listened to him. Whoopsie doopsies. I fucked up." And so him taking the ring off was just him recognizing that it was because of the ring that he fucked everything up, and not so much of a logical decision of what's the most strategic way to go about defeating this undefeatable entity. It was just a bringing himself back to know that this decision he was making to sacrifice himself to the Balrog to save his people was a decision being made by King Durin, not a decision being made by the ring.
I agree with you now, Jamie. At the time, though, I actually had interpreted it as similar to how Elrond states that Galadriel gave him the ring to save the ring from those orcs. At that moment, I had thought, he's taking it off because then this is going to pass down through my line, or I don't want the Balrog to have this ring of power because it's mine. But I do think it's
an interesting interpretation. I like that.
I do kind of think that you're right. Thinking of it as the heroic moment, he's out of his ring sickness and he's looking at his son, and it's more poetic in nature. Either way, I love either option. What an awesome moment for him.
And I mean, it could be a combination of both. Maybe it's like the reason he took the ring off was because his addiction to the ring wanted to save that object for his son. And then as soon as that came off his finger, he had a clarity of mind. And then the secondary decision was, it could be a combo. I don't know. Yeah. But it was badass as fuck either way.
I saw it. Yeah, I perceived it as wanting to pass it down to Durin and, to save, Khazad-dûm and just have that mental clarity.
So do you guys think that all of the rings have the innate ability to keep themselves alive? Like, we know the One Ring has this innate desire to always be
I hope not.
I'm going to put in a theory here. I'm going to say the first rings that were forged were the least likely to have that ability, and each progressive forging had more of a manipulative element of Sauron integrated into it.
Yeah. I think that makes sense, Jake, because typically, or I guess in the lore, those rings don't have an associated kind of ability to control the mind. It's more of, it does influence you. Like the dwarves do get more greedy, but it only just enhances your clear disposition, or like what your focus is. But there's definitely a difference here when we talked about the disembodied voices from the unseen world kind of telling him what to do. I almost take that as, in the lore, Sauron only has his spirit in the one ring, but in this, we know that those 9 rings will have, it has the blood. We didn't talk about the blood of Sauron,
right.
or like
Sauron.
I was wrong. I'll admit it.
I was gonna say, I love that that's how we get the ring wraiths, is through Sauron's own like forging of his blood. I think that makes those characters so much cooler, so much darker, so much more badass.
I can't wait to meet them next season.
When Kevin puts that ring on,
Kevin's getting a ring. Farazan's getting a ring.
No, Farazan's not getting a ring.
husband getting a ring.
Captain Cook.
Hagen the Cuck. Did you just say Hagen the Cuck?
I called him Captain Cuck, but sure.
Oh, no. Wow.
That was a brutal scene to watch.
Brutal.
When
Isildur's
like,
colony.
Dude.
Hey, can you take me on my boat with my new girlfriend, pretty please? And Hagen's like, what the fuck?
I could not pay attention to the actual scene, because in the background you just see him looking at Isildur, just staring at him.
Dude, he just walks over next to Estrid and he's like,
oh my god! And then they're holding hands at the end, so they kind of got together again.
He's holding her hand.
And I greatly valued that as an audience member. You just felt how uncomfortable that was.
Oh god, yeah!
Like you just felt so uneasy just sitting there perceiving this in your living room. It was great.
Yeah.
Back to Khazad-dûm.
Back to Khazad-dûm.
Well,
actually, this is perfect because we spent just as much time talking about this storyline as they did in the show, so we can go back to Khazad-dûm, the more important storyline.
Transition, a seamless transition.
We I need to ask you guys. We need to theorize for a moment, because we haven't been theorizing much because it is a series finale. We've been talking about all this stuff, but we do need to theorize what will happen with the dwarven rings. Do you guys think?
So I was going to ask, I'm going to go one question further off of that. Have we seen Durin's brother before? Maybe not necessarily as like, you don't think so? You think he's been just off in a foreign land?
I believe so.
I think he's probably in Moria, just not in Khazad-dûm specifically. He's probably in one of the other major cities. But they talked about him in season 1, but they haven't, they've just mentioned him a few times, but they're clearly setting up some sort of interpersonal relationship about the king, the kingship, and like Prince Durin is not going to use that ring. We know that for a fact.
Yeah. Right. And Disa doesn't want to use the ring, but like when we have all these new dwarves that are going to be coming to Khazad-dûm in search. They've already paid for the rings. Mm-hmm. I'm very excited to see what happens with those dwarves. So I guess just a general question of like, what do you guys think is going to happen with these 7 dwarven rings?
Oh man, what if we get a dwarven war inside of Khazad-dûm and Durin like goes to kill, misses, hits like a support rock of Mithril, and Balrog just explodes through Khazad-dûm.
That's
so crazy.
That's such a specific theory.
Mark this time code. Save it for 2 years from now.
Yeah.
That would be so dope.
I think Prince Durin's going to lose the throne. I think he's going to lose the throne.
That'll be a major factor of the Dwarven storyline next season. I am looking at the official family tree right here. I don't think in the original lore that Prince Durin actually has a brother. If this is to be believed.
See, the issue with that, though, is Durin is just a reincarnation of the Durin father, and they're never alive at the same point. So they're already taking the lore, and they're kind of like, it's just like a father-son thing. Yeah. Yeah. So I would think, JB, my theory going into season 3 is there is going to be a considerable battle between the brother and Durin, and the brother is going to provide the rings to the other dwarven kingdoms to kneel before him.
That's a great theory.
To become the leader, because he's not in the succession line. Well, he's down from Prince Durin. So there's going to be something interesting there. That would be really fun to see all these lineages kind of come to head.
This would be so absurd if this happened. But, okay,
Jamie, you got Jake theorizing. I don't know about this.
Yeah, you got me thinking. You got the wheels turning right now. So hear me out. So King Durin, now Prince, now King Durin, wields the ring because he realizes the throne can be, overtaken. Is there any way we see the stone in The Hobbit utilized as a means to overtake the power of the ring?
The Arkenstone.
Do we see
I hadn't
the
even
Arkenstone?
thought about the Arkenstone.
Could they incorporate that?
Of Durin's folk? The Arkenstone of Durin's folk?
I think no. I don't think they're going to touch that.
I don't think they should. I hope they don't.
Okay.
I don't know. I mean,
I think that's a separate story, and
I think
like
that's a great idea. I hadn't even thought of that at all. I love that idea, though. I don't think that King Durin is going to put on the ring. I think Durin and Disa are both on the same page. Neither of them are ever going to wield the ring unless it comes to
forced to against the Balrog.
Right. And that's what I'm saying, Andy. Or being overthrown, Khazad-dûm being overthrown by one of the other brothers who has a poor outlook for the society.
It could be. I like these ideas, Jakey boy. I'm really liking this.
I think the first Dwarven scene we get in season 3, when it inevitably gets renewed, it's going to show a pan across a deep, dark room with firelight. And it's going to be Prince Durin, now King Durin, pondering over his father's dead body, but also mulling the ring in his hand, debating whether to put it on.
His precious.
That's really good. Oh,
and then he'll get interrupted by Disa. Your brother's here, and then of course storylines will flow from there.
All right, timestamp this for 2 years from now. Also, that's a great theory.
I love that.
Oh man, I do want to say before we leave Khazad-dûm, Candy,
Candy.
This is kind of sweet, right?
The mithril tastes like mithril.
Andy was bringing up something that maybe he was intentionally referring to, maybe not. The fact that we get the Balrog reveal and Gandalf's name in the same episode, is that kind of crazy? Is that intentional?
Yeah. Oh, no, that's a good parallel.
I thought you were about to say that another theory was they meet. Like Gandalf meets the Balrog.
No. I just thought
he's
from like a
going crazy with his
Charlotte
theories.
Bramstrong. Yeah.
You let this guy have one theory and he goes fucking wild. He says Gandalf and the Balrog are going to meet on a field of trees.
So next season,
and
we're
they're
going to
kiss
Master
each other
Chief from the Halo series coming down to Middle Earth to kick some butt.
Straight from Paramount Plus.
No, Jake, I think good catch there. I think it's a good parallel there that we get the reveal of Gandalf's name as well as the reveal of the Balrog finally interacting with someone here. I don't think that's a coincidence. I think they timed that in step. And as the biggest contrarian when it came to the Balrog being shown too early, I think with what they did in season 1 with the tease, I think they nailed season 2. I will not have any qualms with how they presented the Balrog too early or too minute of a detail. I think they did it justice. I think the way that they introduced and then kind of truly sealed it shut for however long they want to seal it shut. Yep. I think they nailed that.
I agree. And using Jake's great transition over to our favorite wizard, the Grand Elf. Let's talk about everything that went on in Rune in this season finale episode. And I'll save my opinion until after you guys give your comments. What do you guys think about the Rune scene? We got some cool stuff happening, I guess.
Jake, take it away.
Man, I don't know how that's going to come through on mic, but I'm happy to voice my
very
opinion.
loud for me.
In the headphones, it was a devastating moment for all of us.
We might need to tune that in post.
Yeah, thank God you leaned into the microphone for that.
Tune it up in post.
Boy, I really thought at the start of episode 8 that we were, and we didn't see him in 7, so there's nothing to talk about there.
And that was probably
7 was a
okay
perfect
because
episode.
it was just Siege.
Yeah, it was
like you don't need the boring
Right.
storylines.
And I'll be honest, I didn't even think we were going to see Rune in 8. And then we did. It opens. After the great opening, of course, it opens on the Dark Wizard. Oh my gosh, the stranger. We're finally going to get some answers. This Dark Wizard literally says, "It's time for answers. Follow me." And then, nope, the only answer you needed was the power of friendship. I real wasted opportunities in Rune. I've said my piece. Someone else go.
Yep.
I gotta take
Chris,
a walk.
hitting the nail on the head or dropping the stone on the person. I'm right there with you. I really just thought this whole thing was a total flop. Why?
Yeah, that's a good
Why
word for
is
it.
Poppy in Rune?
We should have known. We should have known. As soon as
Yeah,
Poppy showed
that's
up,
actually a
we
really
should
good
have known
question.
that this whole storyline was
There
going
was
to be garbage.
There actually, if you look back on that, there was no reason to introduce that character. Nobody. I mean, nobody was interesting,
Yeah.
but there wasn't. There was no backstory.
He was interesting because his kisses tasted like lizard. That was it.
And who are these mercenaries? That was the worst ending to a villain character that we. Okay, first of all, did you guys I think we can all agree in the first 2 episodes. Oh, there's interesting Rune mercenaries that are coming to kill our heroes. That's
Old kingdoms of men. This is crazy.
my
They're
God.
scary. And then what happened to those characters?
Oh my God, they shat
Wasted.
the bed on those characters. They were so badass upon intro, and they just took them and just threw them in
And
the
then he
fucking
says,
toilet.
"My people were kings." And I was like, "What does that mean? Your people were kings?" And then you die immediately. Like, tell
I don't
us,
know, Andy.
give us
I
any
would love-
information.
And then his friends
to find
run
out.
away.
Yeah.
His friends like, if you do anything, we're going to kill this Harfoot.
Yes.
Oh, you killed my leader? You can have him.
Okay. That's not how hostage situations work.
Yeah,
That was
the Rune storyline all season. I think it was, and we've discussed this a little bit, but the fact that they spread themselves too thin with a lot of these storylines. They tried to have too many separate, disconnected stories happening within the same season, and there's just not enough time to tell the story. So Rune, I think, got the worst of it. If we go back through 8 episodes, we probably had 30 total minutes of screen time of Rune, maybe. Like, there was not enough time to tell a story, and in the time they did use to tell a story, they did bad.
Yeah, the Rune should have only been in 1 episode if they were going to flesh this out, number 1. Number 2, what they did with Poppy and Nori was a complete disgrace to season 1, because the Harfoots were such a joy and a delight and such a strong point of Rings of Power when the show came on air. But this was just, there was no direction with what they were trying to go for here.
Chris,
I echo your sentiment.
I don't even. I actually don't agree that they couldn't have made a great storyline, even with the amount of screen time they provided.
Agreed.
It was
Yeah.
more of the actual story that they wrote, right? Like there's a world of possibilities, literally a whole land none of us have seen in film or in TV to explore, and you're introducing an evil wizard. Okay, the opportunity of Rune was wasted head and shoulders, but not because of the time that they were given, but because of the story that they wrote. Because if in the end the end goal was to have the stores making their way back to Middle Earth as we know it to go and settle the Shire, if that's what you're trying to get to, and then have a Gandalf character, there could have been a lot of possibilities with or without Tom Bombadil to get Gandalf to that place and get the hobbits to a place where they're fighting off against the evil of the Dark Wizard. And there you go, Gandalf right there. So it's more of it was a storytelling issue. Right. It's definitely, especially in contrast to the wonderful things that are happening in other storylines, specifically with Khazad-dûm and the elves.
And then what happened to the septic, the nomad and the wizards?
Nothing. The moth entities.
Yeah. They brought them back.
Well, the Dark Wizard,
nice.
he goes, apologies, I've accompanied myself with such poor soldiers, or whatever he says. And so apparently they were just minions in the end, but they got names in the first season, and it ended up being nothing.
I don't know. It was
I think
bad.
I think the entire runes, Jamie, you said it could fit into about 35 minutes. I think you're right. Jake, you actually said something that was a good idea. Jake, your face is frozen. Oh, never mind. Jake's face is frozen. And I completely lost my train of thought. I have it back.
I've been practicing miming, Chris. I thought I should let you know.
I have it back. My train of thought exists as such, and I will get to it right now. That 35 minutes, that possible one episode, we could have had maybe like a remember Stranger Things, how they had that one weird episode where 11 went off
that would have been awesome.
And did like a side quest for one episode.
Like the Acolyte, where they go back in time.
We
like Andor, where they go to that one planet.
I'm kidding.
Andrew,
Like
this is
Secret
my
Invasion.
metaphor. This is my metaphor. They could have done a similar thing where like there was just one episode where we catch up on everything happening in Rune. And the reason that would have worked so much better is because absolutely nothing related to it back when what was happening in our main story. So you could have spent that time focusing with just one episode. I think the problem is that the way that they wrote it, Andrew, they wrote it as if we were going to get more and we expected to get more, and we simply never did. And finally, in episode 8, they started, like I said, they started with, oh, you're seeking answers? Let me be the one to supply them for you. All we did was get a poorly shot, dark scene. Didn't have to be nighttime. I have no idea why it had to be nighttime. Gandalf uses the Force. Wrong,
Ray Skywalker.
Wrong fandom. Sorry. And then all we learn is that it's the power of friendship. Tom Bombadil was leading him down this path, and he said, "Oh, you can either be an evil wizard with lots of power, or you could be a nice wizard with a little bit of power and more friends." And I get that it's all. Oh, do you choose the power of one or the power to protect the many? I understand the symbolism there, and we know what Gandalf chooses in the end. But it just, I don't even have a final point on this.
Chris, what about? I can give you a better storyline in 30 seconds.
This is a good opportunity for a Hoopla rewrite. I think we revisit. I want to hear what you say, but I think we also revisit this later.
Actually, round table. I would like that.
The mercenaries literally have an eye on their breastplates and their flags.
Yeah.
Why were they not Sauron's, minions of Sauron doing ill to all the different creatures of Rune, including the stores? So Nori and Poppy have to save them from the mercenaries, and there's a dark wizard that we don't know his motives. So the Gandalf has to go and confront this dark wizard that knows him, and he manipulates him and he fights against him. And Gandalf uses a staff that he finds through his friend Tom Bombadil and smites them. I don't know, it's just there's more entertainment value that could have been driven, but also value that we only have 5 wizards in the lore. The opportunities you can have with a wizard that has gone bad well before Saruman does, and is doing cultish type stuff, like that's really interesting. Explore that. But unfortunately they didn't explore that, and we may just leave Rune next season. So
that would be so disappointing.
But where the story is going, I don't think they're going farther east, right? Like,
well,
I don't know. I mean,
the west.
The Harfoots could, or the stores could wander through different areas of Rune. We could get to see more places in Rune as the stores go on their adventure led by Nori. Maybe, but it does seem like they're going west. I'm just most disappointed because the show gets a lot of, always disappointed for Sadok, but the show gets
so sad.
A lot of hate online from people who are like, well, it's mostly people who just, get their likes and their clicks from being mean to every TV show, every movie that's ever gets made.
Sure. Yeah.
They post videos like, oh, this is bad because this. Fuck those people.
A girl was smiling. Jake.
Fucking got his ass.
You're right.
Still not valid.
Those people and others are giving the show a lot of hate. And I think the worst part about this Rune storyline is like there are valid reasons to dislike aspects of this show. And like if you're looking to hate a show, the Rune storyline was not good. And I don't like the fact that these people who are just hating for the sake of hating can have valid reasons to hate the show that we love so much, when there's so much wonderful writing and production and creativity and storytelling going on in other aspects of the show. To have this blemish kind of it can ruin people's view of an entire series to have one small part be subpar. So that's disappointing to me.
I think we could all agree. I'm going to speak for the Hoopla podcast. It's nothing to do with the actors.
I was about to say the same thing.
Markella Kavanaugh's Nori and Megan Richards' Poppy. I think it's a fine little trio. I was excited to see what was happening. Jamie, you made the point in episode 2, maybe, how Poppy just kind of came up out of nowhere. And that's true. That I was hoping that would be the biggest fault of the entire Rune storyline. Turns out that was the least of our concerns of what was going to end up happening. So this is nothing on them as people and actors. I mean, we're not trying to spread hate. I think it's truly just a poorly managed portion of the show.
Chris, you asked for a rewrite. I'm going to provide one for you here, right now.
So let's move on. We've got tons to talk
about. Okay. So
I'm willing to hear you out. I'm just saying I think maybe even a mini episode later we could rewrite Rune and save Rune.
No, let's hear Jake's rewrite. Let's hear it.
Season 1, Poppy and Nori stay with the convoy.
Is that the whole rewrite?
That's the rewrite. That's it.
Did you just delete the storyline and you just have
kind of
Control A?
Look,
Control A.
You can have the wizard go.
If you have Gandalf and Tom Bombadil only, it immediately solves so many of these problems.
No.
But the stranger has to learn about the power of friendship.
Right, of course, which is why he meets the Harfoots in
stores. Oh, no, he meets the stores.
He meets the stores.
That's how he learns the power of friendship.
He can still talk about Sadok, the same conversation Nori had with the leader of the Norse. So,
the Norse.
That's true.
The Norse.
The Norse. I think we need...
And the stranger can kiss nobody.
Oh, yeah. The power of friendship. The power of one,
Okay. Goodbye. See you next week.
Thank you, Acolyte.
I am going to anti-rewrite your rewrite and say that at the end of season 2, we need Nori and the stranger to stay together again.
Yeah.
I think they should never leave each other.
Right. I agree.
Hey, Chris, I know you keep saying like the power of friendship thing, but I do think the Daniel Wayman and Gandalf as a character, now that we've all recognized that this is Gandalf, that's another issue with this season. You don't have to keep saying Gandalf in different ways or making, with your nose, like making Gandalf references for every single episode. You can just tell us or not tell us, just say that this is a wizard. But anyways, once you accept that this is Gandalf, Gandalf and Nori's characters are so wonderful together. And to your point, Jamie, I love them if they would stay together longer. But I do think that this gives you a lot of great perspective in going into Hobbit. Like their relationship through season 1 and season 2 has been a highlight. And it does, like when you see him run, like on his cart in Lord of the Rings coming up and Frodo jumps on it and all the kids are jumping around because his fireworks are going off. He's doing that because of his relationship with Nori, which is great. And I'm always going to think about that. But the storyline let them down in Rune. Like it's all about what happened with the Dark Wizard. Also, we can talk about Tom Bombadil. I actually I thought Tom Bombadil was a good addition to this series.
Jake,
but there was just not a lot to do. There just wasn't a lot to do.
Yes, agreed.
Tom Bombadil was the highlight of Rune. Absolutely. Thank God he was in there. Thank God he was in there. That's all I'm going to say.
They had to add him, or it would have been terrible. Unless they, made the other characters better.
Unless they did anything
you
good.
You reminded me of something, Andy, that was a letdown for me. I mean, we've been talking about things, but Gandalf has these visions of Poppy and Nori suffering and being tortured, and then that never comes to fruition. I guess maybe he prevented it, but
don't you know how visions work?
He went to
I don't know. It just
prevent this thing
felt
from happening that was never going to happen anyway.
I don't know.
It's just they just didn't explain a lot. I like the Tom Bombadil inclusion. I thought he was a great character. I will say, the very end of season 2, how does Gandalf know the song? And also, why is Tom Bombadil alone in his house singing a song about himself?
Oh,
because he's Tom Bombadil.
Dude, my guy does that all the time.
I know that's in character. But in the terms of the show, in the context of this show, I just thought it was very silly to end on. I don't know.
Oh, merry lad.
Don't get me wrong. It was great. It's just like, so your purpose in Rune, which you're not even supposed to be in Rune in the text, your purpose here is to teach Gandalf about the power of friendship and then sing a song about yourself. And then that's it? I mean, is he going to be back in season 3? Do you guys have...
He doesn't need to be.
So I think Jake's right. There was just nothing for him to do.
I want to see Goldberry, though.
Yeah. No, we need to see Goldberry.
I think he'll be back.
Well, he probably will be back. They need somebody in Rune because there's no one left.
He actually has to be back. Yeah, he has to be back.
So, fun little thing here. As he's pouring the tea... He's pouring it into 2 mugs well before the stranger shows up.
That's just because Gandalf is showing up.
Yeah, he knows.
Well, for a moment, I thought it was going to be Goldberry, and then maybe she was going to be in the cabin with him. But then I realized it's just because Tom Bombadil is just magical ethos character that absolutely knows everything. Yeah.
So I know you guys mentioned at some point that Tom Bombadil is the most powerful character in all of Lord of the Rings. Again, I haven't read the text. Jamie pointed out for us again. Thank you.
Word.
Omnipresent.
He kind of exists outside of
Powerful.
power. Yeah.
I mean, he's more powerful than who we've seen. We haven't seen the actual god entity, but like he's
I'm right here.
So is
Jamie
it possible in season 3 that we see, Gandalf nearly being killed by the Dark Wizard? Bombadil intervenes and saves him. Is that possible?
I mean,
it is possible.
Like,
I would push back on that because Tom Bombadil's thing is that he's pretty apathetic to
but the thing about that is, Jamie,
of the
though,
world.
The thing is, Jamie, he's very much more interventionist in this show than he is.
That is true.
Like, he does say those Barrow-wights. He saves Frodo from the Barrow-wights by singing and bringing light. But like he could do that with the Dark Wizard. But he probably would, because he's clearly aligned against the Dark Wizard, and we haven't seen the last of the Dark Wizard. Like there has to be much more. Like there has to be a backstory to him.
He's Sauron.
I mean, there has to be a backstory.
And if his backstory is Saruman, it will be another facepalm moment.
That would be terrible. But Andy, that's a good point. And Jake, that's a yet another good theory from Jakey Boy. Just overflowing with the theories today. Oh my God. You should write season 3. Or at least one of the storylines of season 3.
Before we move on from Rune, let's go around and everyone say one nice thing about the Rune storyline this season. I'll start. Or Andy?
I loved the ending. I know that you're making a joke about the singing and they're sitting together by the fire. I just thought it was such a heartwarming ending. When they kind of pan off of his little cabin, his little hut that looks like it's sitting in the Shire, it just gave me a lot of positive, whimsical vibes that Jake talks about. And it was a really nice scene. And I think, honestly, that was what they probably drew up for Rune. Oh, this is going to be our final scene. Gandalf with Tom together, just chatting, singing, and having a merry time together. Like, that is definitely how they were like, this is how we're going to end the season.
There is something
and then they just didn't know
me.
What to fill it in with.
It's very funny to call Tom Bombadil Tom for some reason. To just call him Tom seems...
Tom. He's like one of those.
I don't know why
namers.
It seems unacceptable.
Well, Barack. No one's calling him. It's Barack Obama.
Well, Jamie's only ever called him Tombo Bombo. Yeah. I've only heard
Bombo.
That's what Jamie always calls Tom Bombadil.
I can't read, so that's what I think it says.
Who else has something nice to say about Rune?
Jakey,
Tom Bombadil.
Okay, dude. So see, this was a success. We've been waiting for Tom Bombadil for 15 years.
I will change the narrative. I will say I did really much like the growth of Nori. How the parallel when she sees how Sadok was the one to try and lead the stores to a better future, she's now going to understand and undertake that particular leadership role for the stores. Now, granted, she was forced into it because the evil wizard kind of destroyed the only thing that the entire civilization actually knows. But I think in the same vein as Sadok and the person that she looks up to, I think she's the future for that storyline can be bright. They can save it with the fact that Nori and Poppy can lead these people to a better future. So I really liked Nori's growth and development. It just would have been nice to see any more of it.
I agree with you 100%. That was going to be the thing that I said that I enjoyed about it as well. And now that we've spent literally more time talking about Rune in this Hoopla episode than we got the entire season.
Wait, Jamie, I have a theory, and I know it's going to happen.
Hit me, big boy.
The stores are going to make their way next season back towards the west. Sauron is going to enslave the stores, forcing Gandalf to confront everything that's happening in Mordor. He's going to waffle for a bit. and then he's going to go and he's going to fight Sauron to save Nori. And it's going to be an allusion to when Saruman enslaved those in the Shire. That didn't happen in Return of the King.
Oh, okay.
Back.
I was not on board until that
Callback.
last part.
And they show it
good.
in Fellowship of the Ring. Frodo sees a vision of it. It's going to be almost exactly the same thing. And I think that could be pretty good for Gandalf and the store's characters.
Oh no! To go on top. I'm sorry, Jake. To go on top of that.
You go.
I think we're gonna see a scene next season. Nori and Poppy are gonna see like a wagon, like off in the distance, and think it's the caravan, and then it's just gonna be the Harfoots wiped out.
Oh,
yes, yeah.
Oh, that would be crazy.
Oh, combine your two theories, so it's the Harfoots are the ones that have been captured by Sauron,
I love
not the
that,
stores.
Chris.
And the stores have to work with Gandalf
so
to save
much.
the Harfoots.
Yeah. Oh man.
As we just see, as we see Sauron's army go all the way across Middle Earth, just taking out all of these communities, including our beloved Harfoots.
I really like that.
And Nori's parents that we did not see in this season.
Damn. These are very good theories, boys. I love a good hoopla theory. Almost as much as I love talking about not Rune anymore.
Yeah,
Let's talk
speaking
about
of going away to faraway lands, are we in Rivendell now?
Yeah, we didn't talk about that. The Valley of Ambadris. Yes.
Yeah, the Sanctuary.
Yeah.
Yes, I think they were definitely teasing Rivendell at the end there.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
I mean, that was kind of an epic shot at the end with Gil-galad holding up the sword in front of all of the remaining Elvish people. That was pretty dope.
It's kind of like
the only thing I could think of. Well, so I watched the episode twice because it was incredible, of course. Nice. The first time I watched it, that scene, I was just taking in the majesty of that moment. So glorious, so powerful. And the second time I watched it, they were trying to decide, should we go after Sauron and fight, or should we defend, or should we go back and gain resources, the sword or the shield? And Arondir says, what would you suggest we do, Commander Galadriel? And she talks for like 3 minutes about the darkness versus the light. And we're like, stop speaking in these riddles, bitch. We need to know. Are we fighting or are we not? You're talking about sunshine. You're talking about
Arondir has no idea what the answer was. He's like, okay, Commander. Yes, Commander.
Ma'am, what are we doing?
I'm sorry to backtrack, but there is one positive thing out of Rune was Poppy's speech. Which was very akin to Sam's speech at the end of Two Towers. That was very cool, like a wrap up, all the storylines being progressed. Yeah. That was really cool.
When she was doing that speech, I did think, is this why they brought Poppy all the way to Rune just for this one monologue?
The speech was ADR'd in. We have to make Poppy relevant.
It was a beautiful speech to tie in all the storylines, which a lot of them were not tied together. Like the Númenórean storylines doesn't really fit in with anything going on in Eregion. Right. Absolutely does not fit in with anything going on in Rune, but it does fit in with our conversation. I think we talked last week about how the Númenórean storyline was not quite living up to what we wanted it to be. We were hoping that maybe we could see more like on the ground level effects of this fight for power, King Pharazôn or Queen Miriel. Yes. And we do get that a little bit in this final episode. We see not as much as I would like, unfortunately, but we do see the effects of these two separate sides of this battle, the people who are on Pharazôn's side and the people who are on Miriel's side, and the street level clash of those two factions. I just wish we got more again.
Yeah, I immediately thought of Andy when we saw the societal calamity. I was like, "Oh my goodness, this is it! We're seeing it! It's happening! Finally, insight into the world."
Dude, wasn't Societal Calamity your indie alt band in high school?
It still is.
That's the name of my biceps, dude.
Yeah,
Societal Calamity.
And is that the cover of your indie rock band?
Yes.
Societal Calamity.
I'm wearing a cardigan on the cover too, so you just have to assume that the tattoos are there.
They're like, oh, he's pretty hipster.
It glows through your cardigan like the One Ring glows.
Whoever's good at Photoshop out there, please do that. I'll post for you so you can get the screenshot and then turn it into an album cover for me. But yes, Andy, talk about Numenor.
Oh, Numenor. I was a little let down. I'm not going to lie to you guys. There's once again, I think the seventh episode was so heavily, I mean, it was all the Siege of Eregion. And that storyline was so good. And the Anatar Celebrimbor stuff was so good that any interaction was just getting pitted against like those scenes. So jumping back and forth. And I think, Chris, we talked about like in Lord of the Rings, sometimes the Sam and Frodo scenes, they don't really live up to the Rohirrim scenes or like the Battle of Pelennor Fields. That's his opinion. I'm just saying. I'm making the parallels here. Jamie doesn't agree. But, it's one of those things where
I think he doesn't agree with me.
The writing overall, I think there could be more. And I think there will be more. Yeah. And they've set up a lot more. But my God, seeing the Narsil as that was awesome. That was such a cool moment of Elendil pulling the sword out, exactly how Aragorn pulls the sword out. He looks like Aragorn. You're like, this is everything that we've been wanting. So I know it's just like a one moment, but it's more than that. It's like you're now I'll take back your lordship. Yeah. Now you will be a future king. Be who you were meant to be. And it wasn't just one moment. It sets up a lot for the story.
Yeah, no, it was more than just, and I love that they didn't just shoehorn it in. That wasn't like fan service or anything. You could say maybe the eagle showing up was a little bit of fan service, but the eagles have rooted
I would disagree.
You could say the Balrog is a little bit of fan service, but we know the Balrog's going to be important. You could make the claim that some people are going to be out there, Narsil shows up in the show out of nowhere. No, it doesn't. It has a legacy here, and it needs to belong to Elendil if it's going to eventually get to where it's going. I thought it was a perfect moment. I mean, this is the last gasp of companionship that Queen Muriel can give to this person who has been so loyal and so comforting all of this time, especially through these last couple tragedies. The least she could do is one, stay behind and be a leader for the faithful, which is kind of funny that the bad people are the faithful. And then two, give him the sword, which it's his legacy and how cool of a moment was that.
But once again,
he's so smitten too.
Oh my God. We needed a little smoochy in that scene there. We needed him to pull out the sword and just a little smooch.
Yeah.
Honestly, those two together. I wish there would be another season where we could like see them like together. Right?
Me too.
But
do it. Sorry.
Unfortunately, thanks, Chris.
Those two actors together are like almost as good as Durin and Disa are together. We just don't get as much time with Elendil and Muriel.
Also, Elendil, the actor, when you're with Muriel, and I forget the actress's name, but when she's
Cynthia Dye Robinson,
yes,
when she's lost her eyesight and he's like her companion, it just works really well, and it fits. Yeah, companion or guide down the steps, as Jake has talked about in the past. They just work so well together. But the one last thing about that sword, I now think, knowing that it comes from her father, her father's father, like there's a lot of meaning in the sword now too.
Yes.
And it's not just Elendil's sword of him taking down, spoilers, the bad. It's like more. It's more than that.
Right.
Don't tell him.
Spoilers for Lord of the Rings.
So there's other things going on here too.
I hope that sword never breaks. Oh no.
Jamie,
Isildur.
I gotta say, your theory about your girl Iarian is not exactly dead, and in fact, I'm a little mad at your girl. There's no doubt about that. But the scene that we get, the last shot of Anatar Sauron, is him holding Feanor's hammer on a brand new location on a hill, thinking about maybe we can build something up over Poppy's little background speech right there. So I'm curious to see if your theory is still alive, that she might be a constructor of Barad-dûr.
It is absolutely alive. It's more than alive. It's confirmed. All right. I will bet my life on this theory. I do. It obviously is not confirmed, but I do feel good about it still, as much as I felt good about it from the very, very beginning, because now she's gone through so much tumultuous emotional adventures between being on her father's side and then watching her brother go off to war and die for this meaningless war that the Númenóreans should not have been involved in, as some people believe. And so she found herself siding with Pharazôn and going against her father and causing that rift. Her only family left. Her mother was killed years ago in an accident at sea. Her brother was killed at a war that she didn't agree with.
Sea is always right.
And her father now is siding with the woman that she views as the enemy. So she's lost her whole family. And as she starts to see that Pharazôn is not the leader that she thought she was aligning herself with, that he's actually maybe in the wrong, she tries to go back to her father, but it's too late. His father has to leave the city. And so now she finds herself alone, agreeing with the faithful probably, and no longer with any allies to be found. So who's going to be her ally? Sauron.
Yeah.
I love her
like
power
that.
flex, by the way. I do. I love her power flex, by the way, on the Númenórean guard.
Yeah, that was
I thought
cool.
That was kind of dope. I did enjoy
Shall I
it.
report your incidents to our Pharazôn?
Yeah, that was kind
She's
of
great. She doesn't get nearly enough screen
She
time.
has Kemen. Kemen and
Fuck
Isildur
Kemen.
God,
coming
I
back
hate
to
Kemen.
Númenor.
Ugh, what a schmuck.
Kemen gets a ring from Sauron and brings
Middle-earth.
Aarion with him to Middle
Now
Earth.
that is a great theory. I
like that.
if we're keeping your Barad-dûr thing alive, that has to be it. Because
we don't have to keep it alive. It's guaranteed.
It's very alive.
How quickly could she get manipulated by Sauron in one episode?
like that.
Oh, very
She
quickly.
touched the Palantir
She's going to
already.
be in such a especially when Isildur comes back.
Yeah.
She's going to be in such conflict with herself. Like, I caused this mass uproar.
Oh wait, he's alive.
Yeah, but he's alive, and it was
they-
not worth it anyways. Like,
They should definitely harp on that if he does come back. That's a great angle.
Okay, I have
so
a question.
she's going to be looking for direction. And what better direction than to use her? We also did get Isildur mentioned the Crafters Guild or whatever. My sister is a Crafters Guild captain or whatever. So again, Jamie, theory flourishing.
I'm telling you.
So
It's 100%
question,
guaranteed.
Do we see, or does she see Elendil again? And if so, in what way? Is it on a battlefield? Is there going to be an interaction, just the two of them?
When
That's a
she
good
is
question.
standing atop Barad-dûr and it's engulfed in flame, she sees him viewing through mega spotlight.
Or
She uses the eye of Sauron.
or does Kemen turn into a Nazgul and just in front of takes him? That would be pretty good.
Can't wait for that.
Damn.
That's like season 5, and we need to get the renewal
this is
first.
Endgame stuff.
Well, regardless, I have to see Elendil kill Kemen in this show.
Oh God, yeah, that needs to happen.
I think it's gonna be a Isildur. It's gonna be a Isildur. Once he knows.
I wish we could have taken the 35 minutes of Rune screen time and just have it be 35 minutes of Elendil stabbing.
Adar style.
Yeah, Dar style. Yeah.
One up the most gruesome moment of all time.
Just everything.
Just every significant death is just all
Hardbone shows up. And just,
yeah. If someone is there online, make that edit. Make
Jake,
that happen.
you're going to make that edit by 2 a.m. tonight. I can feel it in my bones.
Don't tempt
You're
me.
on this.
oh man,
Don't tempt me. It's
be
more
hilarious.
powerful than the ring.
I am hoping that Aarion and Elendil see each other again because I think they have good chemistry as those two characters on screen. That moment we had when Elendil was imprisoned and Aarion came in to see him, we had the incredible line of,
that was great.
If all you can see is pride, then there are no words left to share. Devastating.
Bitch.
But I can also see the future where they never see each other again. I think maybe from my very quick analysis, the only thing that I can see leading Aarion back to meeting up with Elendil is if she sees Isildur come back to the city and she needs to help him escape. And so she ushers him out of the city and they escape together towards wherever Elendil is hiding. But I don't know. I don't know if that family rift can be healed. I think that was a pretty brutal blow between Elendil and Aarion.
Isildur could mend that wound.
Potentially. The fact that Isildur's death was a big factor in that rift getting formed in the first place.
Correct.
So if he's no longer dead, then they might be able to.
But Elendil is also
see.
loyal even to a fault for his leadership, like for Muriel. So to him, there may be nothing that could make that work again.
Very
And
honorable
lest
dude.
we forget that at some point, Narsil does have to get to Isildur. So it could be.
Well,
it could
that
be,
happens in the
That
battle.
happens during the battle itself.
Right. It could be way out of the show, way beyond.
It's going to be the
but
last scene of the show.
It better be
Last scene
If
of the
the
show.
very last scene is
Last scene of the show
literally
is
not,
the intro to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, the last scene is going to be
Oh, that's true.
Isildur
Yeah,
taking
yeah,
that ring off, and if off his hand, and if it's not, then we're going to be posting on Reddit. A lot of posting on Reddit.
We're going to be
a lot of
angry.
divisive talk, as we've seen.
No, that'll be an awesome epic shot for the finality of the show. Oh, that's gonna be so cool.
And then we see Charlie Vickers and Celebrimbor get together again in the afterlife.
In the unseen world.
Charlie's
Force
he's got no fingers, just one thumb, and Celebrimbor has all fingers, no thumb, and they high five each other.
That would be hilarious.
Great parallel.
I like that.
Oh my
I like that a
God,
lot.
that's funny.
It's like friends.
That would be.
He's just looking, smirking.
That's hysterical.
Celebrimbor is smirking at Sauron, like Sauron's been smirking
I
the whole
told you.
season.
Look what the cat dragged in.
It was going to happen the
Oh
whole
my
time.
Well, I think we've been talking for almost the 45 hours we promised at the beginning of this episode. Is there anything that we missed that we need to discuss before we bring this episode and this season of Hobbit Hoopla to a close?
I've got one.
Hit me.
Let's hear it.
As good as the chemistry of Queen Muriel and Elendil was, and was I wishing for a little smoochy smooch? Yes, I was. Where I wasn't wishing for a little smoochy smooch was between Elrond and Galadriel.
That
Now,
wasn't a smooch.
I think you're right. I wanted to talk about this. This is the last question I had, and this was from episode 7 when she's in the encampment and she's being taken prisoner. That was not a romantic.
No,
distraction.
it was a ruse.
It was a ruse.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was not romantic.
I totally
It
lost
was-
words. It had
It
no
was
intention.
loving. It was loving, but it was
Right.
not romantic.
Okay. It was just, and it's kind of like, the PDA. No one wants to look at PDA, so it just gave them a little distraction. So he
The
could.
power of love. Shield me from my eyes.
All right, so everyone's in agreement.
I think
there.
they made you want to believe it for like a split second,
Yeah.
but then
Yeah.
it's clear that he hands her then the item to escape.
Okay, I'm glad we
Yeah.
all think that.
But some
Don't act
people,
like you've
but
never
some people
kissed one of
do
your good
think-
friends just because they're
Yeah.
kidnapped and locked in an encampment by a bunch of creepy monsters. Everyone's
Jamie,
been there. Everyone's
I've done that
it.
with you, but I was also the one that locked you up in the first place. So
And we were also both very naked, so there was no hiding those secret lock
hey,
picks.
no, I don't think P Diddy listens to this podcast.
Brought to you by
good.
baby oil.
So we all think the
Oh
same
my
thing.
God.
I didn't want there to be like a Rey and Kylo Ren situation
Yeah,
where they
yeah.
just forced a kiss out of fucking nowhere. Okay, cool. So that was a distraction.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I will say that in Rivendell, or not Rivendell yet, but he does. Oh no, this is actually still at the battle. They do put the ring, like he puts the ring on her finger,
Yeah.
and it's a very elongated proposal type ring.
It did look like that.
But at the same thing, this show is all about rings. So maybe it's just they're trying
True.
to make it like a big moment that he's putting the ring on her finger. But
Yeah.
it does
Will
kind of look like a
you
proposal.
Marry Sauron.
Ooh, I think she's probably 50-50.
Oh, hey, by the way, that was my moment. I have a separate moment we didn't talk about.
Go for it.
When I think he is in Anatar's visage, and he looks at her and he talks about how she was going to be his queen. I thought that
Yeah.
was such a interesting moment because once again he's still manipulating her, but he also kind of believes it. And I feel like
I think
that
he
was
believes it.
the power of this actor and kind of how he like almost reasons with himself as he's lying to these people. It's just so interesting. And there is like a manipulative evil, but he does think he's doing the right thing. Like that's why
Yeah.
it's so confusing, even though it's clear that it's not the right thing to do.
Is it? I don't know.
I
But
mean-
yeah, that's a great point because we get Celebrimbor telling him directly, like, you're the greatest deceiver. You can even deceive yourself.
Deceive yourself.
True.
So is he in those moments deceiving himself to think that he actually does want Galadriel to be his queen? Because to me, it really does feel sincere that Sauron wants Galadriel by his side. But I don't know. Am I being
I think-
deceived? I might also be being
I
deceived.
think he believes it up until she finally lands a blow and cuts his face.
Right.
And then he finally realizes, like, oh, she's lost. And that's when he goes and punctures her with the crown of Morgoth.
Right, which
was
is
pretty
that
awesome, by the way.
Is that a parallel to how her brother died? He was impaled by Morgoth, right?
Oh,
that's a good
great
point.
fucking
Wow.
catch there,
And he also
JT.
says the line about the
darkness.
darkness thing.
Yeah.
If you have to touch the
Right.
dark or touch the light, you have to touch the darkness or whatever.
Yeah.
That could be
Bold move,
innuendo. I
Dan,
don't know.
To go cliff diving. Bold move.
Yeah. Hey,
Yeah, a little
know?
bit of plot armor there.
Yeah,
Sometimes
it's
you
like,
just
is
gotta-
there actually? Darby had said, "Is there an Ent down there that's going to catch her?"
oh,
Like,
that would be
but
awesome.
at the same time, she's falling for so long, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wow, that tree. I don't know if that canopy is really going to help you out that much."
This came
I don't know
right
how she
after
survived that.
she fell off the 10-foot stone that they were fighting on. The
she's
stone fell.
struggling.
And then she was like, oh, I can't get up. I just fell 10 feet. And then she fell 100 feet. The power of magical rings, baby.
Sure.
It must be.
You love to see it.
Yeah.
Jake,
Anything else?
do you have one final thing that you would like to discuss from this episode, this season?
Me?
Yeah, do you have anything? Otherwise, we're going
goodness.
to wrap this baby up.
Oh my goodness, I can't. I don't think so.
We were all talking about him. If you don't have one, that's okay.
And I mean, we have been talking.
I brought up the crown thing, and that was pretty much.
There we go.
Dope.
That was pretty much it.
We can talk another 35 minutes about Gil-galad.
That's true. He was badass.
He was
as hell.
truly
When he was out there with his spear.
Wow. Why haven't I had Gil-galad like this badass for the past 2 seasons? Now he does have the ring, but still, wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
it was awesome.
We also didn't talk about the acrobatics of Arondir throughout episode 7, which was incredible. I mean, he's had his like little moments here and there, but like seeing him on the battlefield just cruising it. And Elrond looked good out there too. I mean,
he
haven't given him any credit at all.
Okay, that was another thing.
Yeah.
Robert
Warrior
Armayo,
Elrond.
he learned how to ride a horse for those scenes, and he had never wielded a
love
sword
that.
before, like in other properties. So
I wielded a sword this weekend.
Exactly. I have a lightsaber in the other room that I always pull out, but Robert Armayo, he learned it all.
That's awesome.
Oh yeah. Arondir, one quick thing to say about Arondir, and then we'll wrap it up. This is going to be my thing that we didn't discuss. An incredible moment when he saves Galadriel from Adar's camp. And then he is about to go after Adar, and Galadriel says, if you go after Adar, you will pay with your life. And then Arondir says, he can have it. He's taken everything else. Incredible
so
line.
cool.
The only unfortunate thing is that they kind of undercut that moment by Adar killing Arondir in episode 7.
Yeah.
And then he just came back. He was perfectly fine in episode 8. I mean, I know we get that a lot where like we get fake out deaths in, movies and TV shows all the time. That was a really, really disappointing fake out death for me. To have that lead up of Arondir wanting to take Adar on one-on-one, willing to sacrifice his life for that battle. And then we get the one-on-one. Arondir does sacrifice his life. And then it's just as if it never happened.
Okay.
That was badass as hell. And then
that was
disappointing.
Yeah, that was a total jaw drop for me when that happened.
Yeah.
That's a great point, Jimbo. Yeah.
And we don't even get like seeing him on the
now.
ground like, oh, my tum-tum hurts.
Right.
And then someone
It
comes
just
by
looks
and
like
helps
he
him
dies.
up. He shows up being escorted by orcs in episode 8.
Yeah, but Jamie, we didn't remember that because the next scene was then the opening to episode 8, and we saw the Balrog, and we all were like, okay, this is fine.
Yeah, this is good.
This is fine. This is cool.
We can forget a lot.
Plus, I'm still happy that Arondir is around.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna be.
He's a
I'm
breath of
much
fresh
happier.
air. Hey, the fact that Arondir and Adar are 2 new characters they created for the show, and they're, I think, top 3 characters for me overall, other than Anatar.
3 being Poppy.
3 being Poppy.
Yeah, I was gonna say Poppy season 1.
Poppy,
not Poppy.
nobody.
Legitimately though,
Yeah.
Nori is a fantastic character.
Yeah, Nori
so
is
they have
wonderful.
created
Just
many
underused.
great characters for this show.
Sadok. How can you not throw
Sadok.
him into the mix?
But Anatar and Celebrimbor this season specifically absolutely knocked it out of the park. 100 out of 100. Perfection. Which brings me to our favorite way to end every episode, the ratings. Would you guys like to do ratings of the final 2 episodes, or would you want to do a rating of the whole season?
We'll do them both together.
Both. Yeah. We'll do them both.
The Siege was almost one movie to me, so I think it makes sense to put it
It's
together.
fitting. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Well, Jakey boy, what'd you think?
The penultimate and the ultimate episode totally lived up to the hype. I'm just going to jump right to it. For the 2 episodes, I'm going to give it a 107 out of 111.
Hey,
Incredible. I texted you guys as soon as I finished episode 7. I said, this one's hitting triple digits for sure.
Yeah,
Nailed it.
It was so fun to watch through and through. I want to go watch it again. I was disappointed that I didn't get to get rewatch time for these 2 episodes before doing this pod. I would have talked for another 35 minutes. We keep bringing up 35 minutes, so I'm going to just stick to that timeline. it was so entertaining. Obviously, the rune situation, we've talked that to death. I don't want to revisit it anymore. Neither does anyone else. But for the season, we'll say 92 out of 11 hooplas.
Hell yeah.
I think
That's a
this show is
success.
very.
Yeah.
That is a success. I want to say this show is particularly good at taking the time to focus on environments that they truly want to focus on. When they
Absolutely.
don't flesh out specific storylines, this show begins to suffer. And it's a true loss for the show because they have so many special actors. And they can take this thing in so many different directions, but they're just selling themselves short. So that being said,
Well said.
let's
Well
flesh
put.
out Numenor. Let's flesh out Rune. I don't want to take a back seat in terms of where Anatar is at because obviously he's been carrying the show big time.
Well, Anatar's done, right?
Uh,
Like the Anatar character was specifically how he revealed himself to Celebrimbor.
Yeah.
Right.
So he's,
but I don't
He
think
goes by many
he's probably
names.
not going to
He
change
goes by
back to
many
names.
He
Halbrand.
goes by many names.
Oh my
Well, I
gosh,
just
are
mean-
we going to see him in his full real armor? I think you
that's
can only do
Sauron.
that during
That
the
could
battle,
be-
right? Or
That could be episode 1
but-
of season 3, wielding the helmet.
he puts
no,
That's
we
what I
cannot
know.
put
That's
Charlie
good.
Vickers under a helmet.
I think
That
we
is
need
a fucking
I think
sin.
Anatar, we're going to have Anatar around as his way to communicate with others for the next few seasons, but I don't know. That's my theory.
I
Okay,
disagree.
well,
I think he's Sauron now, and it's going to be
Well-
Sauron until the end.
So, okay.
could
be
But you
Adar
mean, but
now.
visually, what do you think he's going to look like? Is he going to change a form? Are you
I
saying?
think he'll
Change to
change
Adar?
Okay. Oh,
no, I think he'll change again.
He
just to
could
be a
change to
different
Adar.
character.
Okay.
yeah, I
That
think
would be very
I think we had
interesting.
Halbrand season 1, we had
Yeah.
Anatar season 2, and I think we have Sauron from here on out. Chris, I think you're absolutely
Okay.
correct. We're just going to get Charlie Vickers in kind of a more sinister look.
Yes, and it's going to be the
Sure,
role of
sure.
a lifetime.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
5
so
different
anyway.
characts over 5 different
We interrupted Jake's
He's
rant.
turning into a wolf next season. I know it for a fact.
Can't wait.
That's
for
actually a
Wolf
theory. He probably will. Okay, you go, Jake.
Oh well, that'd be great.
And-
Casa Doom, absolutely wonderful. Keep up with the dwarves. That's been just full steam ahead. Outstanding. Other than that, let's keep rolling with what's going on in Rivendell. Let's build that city up and go from here.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Hoopla. I love it. And Andy, what did you think of the penultimate episode and the ultimate episode? And what did you think of the whole
The whole
season?
season. All right, I'm really following in Jake's footsteps. I think it's a 105 out of 11 for the penultimate and ultimate, and for the full season. I mean, we've talked about Rune a lot. So other than that storyline, and I liked a lot of Gandalf and Tom Bombadil. I would say it's much better than season 1. I think objectively, I guess it's not objectively because everything's subjective, but
Not on the Hoopla podcast.
yeah, objectively, it is significantly a step up. And I think this puts us in a really good place for really interesting storylines going into season 3. I think, Jake, you named a few. One other outside of the Rivendell, building that into the Elven civilization. I think Anatar, Sauron, is now on a war path. And they mentioned that the fire will burn across Middle Earth. And that's what I want to see. I want him to take Adar's army and scour Middle Earth. Eventually I would love to see how that influences then Numenor, which I think can be really, really interesting and open up the Numenor storyline. So I know I just pushed into the next season, but I think for everything that they've done up to the Siege of Eregion, that was an impressive show. They built it all through the season. A great battle with wonderful play between Celebrimbor and Anatar.
So Andy, I can't remember if it was you or Jimbo that brought it up, but this top henchman for Adar's army was killed. Now his family will be without without him. Do you want to see the societal impact of the orcs now going forward, like how they respond to Anatar? Because that could be kind of interesting, right? Like we haven't really seen a humane side from how the orcs perceive things, right?
Yeah.
That's a really interesting question.
Because honestly, we see it. Yeah, we see it through Adar. We see it through that lead. But now that that's gone, where does the humanity come from? Or now that Sauron comes and manipulates the orcs, is that storyline pushed aside? Or maybe we do see those among them, the lowliest, get trampled by the kind of ferocity of Sauron and like kind of his evil, like what he's trying to achieve.
Or is there some pushback from the orcs themselves against Sauron?
Right.
I don't know. Because what we definitely need is we need another character to go head to head with Sauron, Anatar, Halbrand in season 3. Because season 1, Halbrand, Galadriel, spectacular.
Yeah.
Season 2, Celebrimbor, Anatar, the best ever. Season 3, what's it going to be? Chris, you got something?
I have an insane poll for you guys right now.
Oh, yes.
Absolutely insane quick rabbit hole. So Glug, my Roku. Glug is
that's an insane enough poll right there. The fact that you know his name is Glug.
No, Glug is the second in command to. Well, I guess that's just how he's ticketed. I don't know if it's ever actually said in the show, but the second in command to Adar.
Yeah.
So Glug or Glug, or it's got a pointy thing over the U.
It's got a glue.
Those words will never ever be said in unison again.
Brand new sentence.
Yeah, sequentially, a Glug, oh no, my Roku will never be said ever again in the history of humanity.
That's his name, Glug Onomaruku.
That's a great name.
That's actually a very good name.
Here's the insane poll for you. So Glug is played by Robert Strange, who's been in a number of things. He's looks a lot more handsome in his IMDb photo than he does as Glug. He's been in Doctor Who. He's been in a couple of films. He's also been in a little-known project called Millennium Falcon Smuggler's Run. He is the voice of Hondo Onaka for the Star Wars, the Galaxy's Edge, where you and friends control the Millennium Falcon at a theme park.
No way.
So there's a little cross-fandom poll for you that I just stumbled upon.
That's such a fun little fact.
Hell yeah.
Good job.
Very
That's
funny.
the type of hoopla content people sign up for.
That's Star Wars Lord of the Rings
else,
trivia.
baby.
That's
If you listen to
That's
2
very good.
fucking hours of this podcast, you
if you're still with us here.
If you're still with us, is it time for me to?
It's time for Chris.
92 out of 11 you won for the season 2.
For the
Thank you.
season. Wow, nice.
hell yeah. All right, Glug, what do you have for us?
All right, well, Glug knocked it out of the park, 10 out of 10. No, I think there is so much to love. These past 2 episodes, like Jake said, perfectly lived up to the hype. I don't think there's much more we could have asked. Again, we keep talking about Rune. I won't harp on it. If you can annex Rune, I think these last 2 episodes were just a spectacular way to cap off the season and to set us up for what's to come. I'm going to give these 2 episodes a 102 out of 11D1 with a special consideration for the Eregion storyline. Every scene that took place in the last 2 episodes at Eregion, I believe, deserves a perfect 11D1 out of 11D1.
I agree with that 100%.
If in time to come, if you were to go and supercut every scene from the last 2 episodes, even part of episode 6, and just give me the Siege of Eregion as one mini movie, I don't believe there is a single thing you could have done differently that would have changed my mind to change my score. So the last 2 episodes as a whole, very good overall, getting a 102 out of me. The season as a whole, I'm going to drop it just slightly down to a 95 out of 11D1 Hooplas. I think missed opportunities, not just in Rune, but in other places. I think the core of what they were driving at with the rings being created, and this season will be remembered as the ring creation season, and for good reason. I mean, it's time to do that. It's called Rings of Power. Now we have 3 reported seasons of battle and conflict, and these characters have been put in place. And the 9, that we have to get these rings out to the men, and we have to find out who those men are. And so all the pieces are in place. I think this season was exceptional. I was a little upset we didn't get to focus on Galadriel and Elrond, that part of the Elven camp, as much as maybe I would have hoped for. But other things took precedent. I mean, we got a lot of Galadriel in season 1, again, for good reason. I felt like Morfydd Clark and Galadriel were not really the main character anymore. And that's okay. With a cast this large and with a cast this talented, I don't think there needs to be a main character. I think that's just how they introduced evil into the world. Galadriel jumped off that ship in the first episode because she realized that there was more to be done in Middle-earth. And there is more to be done in Middle-earth, and I'm very excited for what's to come. Whole season for me is a 95 out of 11D1.
Awesome.
I think it was a major success.
I love it.
Chris, question for you.
9 inches.
Talk about damn right.
Question
am I
answered.
right?
Thank you. No,
They're getting delirious. We're 2 hours in.
Yeah, we are 2 hours.
If you're still
in.
with us, you're
Now we're going to
just
talk
a
for
true
35 more minutes. No, I'm kidding. Now you know, the main character of season 1 was Galadriel. Main character of season 2 was Anatar. Who do you believe the main character is or is going to be of season 3?
Or like I don't even say
Sauron.
I think it would have to be Sauron.
Yeah, you
the
think
focal
so?
point is
so?
Sauron.
I have an idea. It could be Elrond is season 3, as now we have to do more political and intellectual work rather than just directly fighting against evil. Now is the time to reassess the current state of Middle-earth and bring in Elrond's wisdom and knowledge as a means to connect the different peoples of Middle-earth against a common goal.
With that being said, I'd like to amend my theory about how the Dwarven storyline starts. Instead of, it's the same thing, Prince Durin is pondering over his father's body with the ring in hand, but instead of Disa interrupting, we hear, "I'm sorry for your loss, old friend."
Ooh.
And it's Elrond visiting.
Because
they didn't see each other at the last 2 episodes here.
Yeah.
Remember? Because he didn't go. Narvi shows up and it's like, Elrond
He never
is
showed up.
mourning the king.
Oh.
Durin will come.
Or Durin is mourning the
Durin will come.
king. Right? Yeah.
Durin will come.
Oh, that
So
was
I think
sad.
Yeah,
That was
I would
heartbreaking.
love Elrond.
I think we
We could see
could
that.
get Elrond as the main character, and I would absolutely love that. If I had to bet money on it, I'm going to say Sauron is the main character again.
Right.
But who's he going to team up with?
See, that's the thing.
We're getting the Nazgul in.
I
We're getting the ring
absolutely.
race.
He needs
I
allies.
think
He's
he
out of
is
allies.
going to I feel like a Numenor Sauron storyline is on the way. And just think of all the manipulation that could take place.
Those people are so manipulatable.
They're
They got
very
manipulated by a freaking regular guy.
Lord Balgazar. What's that guy's name?
Yeah.
So
Who knows?
super manipulatable.
Super manipulable.
Is that Farazan's assistant?
Yeah,
Is
Yeah.
Lord.
He is almost
Yeah.
as bad as Kemen. Oh,
He's pretty bad.
Almost.
He's pretty bad.
if you put the two of them in a room and you got Elendil stabbing them for 35 minutes. Chris,
All right.
All right, Jamie. Let's wrap it up. Let's hear it.
I'm going to give the penultimate and the ultimate episode combined into one. I'm going to give that a 106
Wonderful.
out of 11D1 Hooplas.
Hoopla.
It would have been perfect. It loses about 1 point for Numenor, wasn't quite as strong as it could have been. And it loses the rest of the points for Rune being bad. But other than that, it was perfect.
Nearly
The
perfect.
the season overall, I think I'm going to stick with Chris and give it a 95 out of 11D1 Hooplas. I mean,
Hoopla.
really, really good. I am so sorry that not everyone in the entire world is watching this show and enjoying it the same way we are, because it's fucking good television.
It's so
incredible
Lord of the
visuals,
Rings.
incredible acting, which we've talked about every single episode, and just it all comes together to create a great story, and it gets me invested in all these different characters. So I hope for season 3 more people have gone back and rewatched season 1 and 2, and we get record numbers of viewers for season 3. That's my hope for probably 2.5 years from now, whenever that season comes out.
Yeah, it's going to be a long struggle to wait.
Here's a question for you, Jimbo. You want more viewers in season 3. Do you think that interrupting ads is going to have any significance on that?
Wait, wasn't the worst?
Prime Day is coming up, October 7th and 8th.
Do not yell into your microphone ever again.
Terrible. Okay,
sorry,
so
I didn't know that.
okay, there was one ad cut where they flung Celebrimbor's body off of the steps to near death, and then immediately cuts to a Dove commercial or something.
Oh, you got Dove Men Plus Care?
Yeah,
Timing of the ads was so terrible.
Tell me who chose that.
Does such a good job of setting it, like the scenes end on such a high note or on such an impactful moment, is how all the scenes are written and directed to end. And so they have to put an ad break in between scenes. You can't put an ad break within one scene, but all the scenes are crafted in such a way that if you get to the end of a scene, you're in an intense moment of the show, and you can't go from the orcs from fucking Blurg or whatever his name was finding Anatar and saying, "Are you him? Are you Sauron?" And then Sauron looks at him and says, "And what's your name, Uruk?"
Find out if that's Sauron after the break.
Go buy some dog food, you fucking idiot. It's
Murdania, death. By the way, come down to Carolina Ford dealers here.
she falls to the ground, gets axed by an orc, then you get an advertisement for Band-Aids.
Ford F-150 shows up on screen.
So as we end every episode of the Hoopla podcast, we are indeed delirious.
Wow.
As we end every
time
episode
to
of the
go.
Hoopla podcast,
Thank you, Rings of Power.
thank you, Rings of Power. Thank you, Amazon, for everything but the ads. Thank you, listeners, for tuning into this season of the Hoopla podcast. We loved having you along the way for this wonderful adventure. And tune in again next week when we do other stuff. And tune in again in 3 years when we talk about Rings of Power Season 3, baby. But now, as we end every episode of the Hoopla podcast, it is time for the moment of highest hoopla, the quote of the episode. What do you got for us, Andy?
As King Durin said, "I never let you lift your hand. It was you, just you getting stronger. Forgive me, my son, King Durin." Oof.
Incredible.
Damn.
So good. I love how his little feet stick out when he's jumping.
Oh, does he? Does it do this?
Yeah.
He splays.
His feet are like, boop.